Good afternoon, everyone. We are the Group 2 and I am Kurna Bildoro. I am pleased to introduce our group presentation. Today, our team will present on designing an evaluation tool for peer-created instructional materials. Peer-created instructional materials are becoming increasingly common in classrooms, from student-made videos and slide decks to study guides and practice quizzes. But how do we assess these materials fairly and consistently? Our presentation is divided into 4 subtopics. First, we will explain why peer-created materials need a dedicated evaluation tool. Second, we will describe the 3 core dimensions of quality that any such tool must measure. Third, we will introduce the single-point rubric format as the most effective design. And fourth, we will discuss validation and implementation steps to ensure the tool works in practice. Let me briefly set the context. Traditional grading rubrics are often designed for teacher evaluation of student work, but peer-created materials are unique. They are made by students for students. This means the evaluation tool must serve 2 audiences: the creator, who needs guidance before submission, and the peer evaluator, who needs clear objective criteria.
Let me start with a common scenario. Imagine you ask 5 student groups to create a study guide for their peers. You receive 5 very different products. One is clear and helpful, another is full of jargon, a third is just a collection of screenshots. How do you grade them fairly? Without a structured tools, you might rely on intuition, but intuition is not reliable. Here is a core problem. Peer-created materials can improve ownership and deep learning, but without structured criteria, peer assessment becomes unreliable. Students tend to focus on surface features like spellings, length, or appearance rather than actual instructional quality. Research supports this. A 2020 meta-analysis by Double McGrain and Hopfenbeck examined 54 studies on peer assessments. They found that peer assessment works only with explicit text. Specific rubrics are used. In fact, they reported a moderate to large effect size. Cohens they equal 0.56 for peer assessment over teacher's assessment when rubrics were provided. Without rubrics, the effect was negligible. This is published in Assessments and Evaluation in Higher Education, a top peer-reviewed journal. Let me give you a concrete example. Without a tool, a student might say, "This video is good. This is useless feedback. It tells the creator nothing about what to improve." With a well-designed tools, the same student would say the video defines 3 key terms but lacks a self-check question. Also, the audio is unclear at 2:30. This is specific, actionable, and fair. So, a dedicated tool turns vague opinions into useful feedback. It also reduces anxiety for peer evaluators who often feel unqualified to judge each other's works. When you give them clear criteria, they gain confidence. Now, what should the tools measure? I will pass the presentation to Ms. Elrose Dini-ay, who will explain the 3 core dimensions of quality.
We propose. Thank you, Ms. Jane. My name is Elrose Dini-ay. I will be tackling about the core dimensions of quality. We propose that an effective evaluation tool must measure 3 evidence-based dimensions. Let me walk you through each one. In dimension 1, which is alignment with the learning objectives, every criterion is your tool must tie directly to a stated course outcome. If a learning objective is not mentioned, students will not prioritize it. As Brookhart argued in 2021, in education measurement, issue, and practice, rubrics lose validity when criteria are not explicitly mapped to learning targets. For example, if your objective is students will be able to compare 2 theories, then your rubrics must include a criterion about comparison, not just description. In dimension 2, Cognitive accessibility. It means the language structures and cognitive load must suit peer learners, not expert instructors. Many per creative materials per universal design principles. Castro and Tomi by 2021 in the literature review published in the International Journal of Educational Technology in Higher Education show that accessibility is often overlooked. Your tool should check readability, like for example, sentence length, define jargons, and logical flows. Another example is clear headings, step-by-step organizations. In dimension 3 is generative engagement. It means materials should require active responses, not passive reading or watching. Fiorella 2023 in Educational Psychology Review explained that generative learning strategies such as self-testing, summarizing, or generating examples are reliability indicators of materials quality. Passive materials may be clear, but they do not promote long-term retentions. Your tool should reward embedded activities that make the learners think. Now, let me show you the difference between a poor criterion and a good criterion 1. Based on the engagement dimensions, a poor criterion would be, is the materials is creative? Why is this poor? Because creative is subjective. 1% creative is another confusing. Jensen and Sivingway class work show that such vague terms lead to low inter-rater readability, meaning two evaluators will give very different scores. A good evidence-based on criterion would be includes at the least two embedded prompts and ask the learners to generate examples or answer a question before continuing. Why is this better? Because it is behavioral and countable. You can objectively check whether the materials contains two prompts. A 2021 study by Wong and colleagues published a comparison and education found that behavioral indicators like this yield high inter-rater agreement K equals 0.86, while global ratings are barely above chance K equals 0.41. In other words, specific criteria make evaluation fair and consistent. Now that we know what to measure, let's discuss the best format for the tool. I will hand over to Ms. Jen Bartuses to explain the single point rubrics.
Now, I will be discussing about the single point rubric format. You might be tempted to use a traditional analytic rubric with multiple columns and point deductions. But I would convince you that the single point rubric is superior for peer-created materials. What is a single point rubric? It has only the middle column, labeled proficient, fully described. The left column is for concerns. What is missing or needs improvement? And the right column is for exceeds, above and beyond expectations. That is it. No long list of point values, no confusing levels. Why does this work? First, it reduces cognitive load. Evaluators do not have to compare 4 or 5 levels of quality. They simply ask, does this meet the proficient description? If not, what is the main concern? Second, it focuses feedback on the specific improvements rather than the point deductions. Students receiving feedback see a narrative about what to fix, not a letter grade. Third, it is faster to use, which matters when you have many peer evaluations. Here is an example row for the criterion of peer-friendly language. We can concerns column might say jargon undefined, no logical order. The proficient column says key terms defined, clear inter-body conclusion. The exceeds column says includes a glossary plus a one-sentence summary of each section. A controlled study by Limas Nestal and colleagues in 2019, published in Transactions on Education, compared single-point rubrics to analytic rubrics in blended e-assessment environment. They found that single-point rubrics improve peer feedback quality by 34%, measured by the specificity and actionability of comments. Students also reported less anxiety because they were not constantly calculating lost points. Notice that the proficient column is the target. Concerns and exceeds are open-ended, which allows evaluators to write unique feedback without being forced into preset boxes. This flexibility is especially valuable for creative peer projects.
So I will discuss the subtopic 4, which is the validation steps. Designing a rubric is only the first step. Before you use it in a real course, you must validate it. Validation means proving that your tool is reliable. Different raters give similar scores and useful. Creators understand it and find it helpful. According to Musin Dickman and colleagues 2020, in studies in educational evaluation, validation requires both quantitative and qualitative methods. Quantitatively, you want to enter rater reliability or IRR above 0.75, measured by PLEAS, kappa or intra-class correlation. Qualitatively, you use think aloud protocols or focus to identify confusing wording. Here is a step-by-step validation example you can complete in one afternoon. Step 1. Give your rubric to 5 peer creators. Ask them, is any criterion unclear? Can you explain its criterion in your own words? This is phase validity. Step 2. Have 2 evaluators independently score 10 sample peer-created materials using your rubric. These samples should range from 4 to excellent. Then calculate PLEAS kappa. If your kappa is below 0.75, you have a problem. Step 3. Revise the criteria that show low agreement. For example, if evaluators disagree on what count as clear logical clue, you might need to add concrete indicators like uses, headings, or numbered steps. Step 4. Pilot the revised rubric with a new set of materials. Repeat until reliability is acceptable. This process might take an afternoon, but it will save you endless grading headaches later. Let's move on to implementation recommendations. Once validated, how do you implement the tool? The key insight is to use it before, during, and after creation, not just at the end. A study by Vanderpool and colleagues 2021 in assessment and evaluation in higher education showed that sharing the rubric before creation reduces revision requests by 40%. Students appreciate knowing the expectation upfront. Here is our recommended implementation checklist. Number 1. Give the tool to creators of the project plans. It acts as a specification sheet. Number 2. Require a 10-minute midpoint self-check using the tool. Number 3. Have creators self-evaluate before submitting their final material. Number 4. Limit your rubric to 4 or 5 criteria maximum to avoid evaluation fatigue. More than that, and students will stop reading. Additionally, we recommend using the tool for formative purposes first. Low stakes, no grade, before using it summatively. This builds familiarity and trust.
First, per assessment fails without explicit rubrics. Double it at 2020 show that task-specific criteria are essential for reliability and learning gains. Second, use 3 evidence-based dimensions, alignment with learning objectives, Brockhart 2021, Cognitive Accessibility, Castro and Tumibay 2021, and Generative Engagement, Fiorella 2023. Third, the best format is the single point rubric. Lamas Nistal et al. 2019 found it improves feedback quality by 34% compared to analytic rubric. Fourth, validate your tool with a pilot test. Aim for iterator reliability above 0.75 as recommended by Amosin Beckman et al. 2020. Fifth, share the tool before creations. Van Per Paul et al. 2021 show this reduces revisions requests by 40%. Our core message is this: a good evaluations tool teaches quality, it doesn't just judge it. When students use the same rubric to guide their creations and to evaluate their peers, they internalize the standards. The tool becomes a learning device, not just a scoring sheet.